Take the firearms first and then go to court.
Well, President Trump is floating around a gun ban that nobody has ever seen before. I don't know that anybody even expected this from President Trump.
So you forgot about the Democrats and the liberals that told you that bad things were going to happen when Trump got into office? So you forgot about all of them? Obviously, they knew.
After this recent shooting up at the Catholic school in Minneapolis, of course, there's been calls for gun bans, and this is very typical from people on the left, of course. It's the guns' fault, it's magazines, it's weapons of war, etc., etc. It gets very old and tiring, and of course, that side is pushing for that. They did it almost instantly.
How about we take the political parties out of it, because tragic events such as these transcend a political party. It does not matter what political party you are affiliated with when it's people fearing from a tragic event that has recently happened. Those families are fearing life right now. Can we just put aside the political crap for a minute, because this is beyond political at this point? So how about we say instead that people who are afraid after a tragic event are calling for gun bans, which is generally understandable. I mean, most people who go through tragic events are calling for some retribution, and gun bans in this case they see as the natural course, when in fact a gun is just a tool that is used by a person just like any other. If it's used incorrectly, it can be a problem, as any other tool would be. And I don't know if you quite know this or not, but more Democrats, liberals, and independents have guns than you realize. Just for a little sense for your knowledge there, my friend. And as far as my knowledge goes, there's only very few calling for an outright ban on all guns. Most of everyone that I know is calling for gun reform, when in reality all gun reform does, and those laws do, is prevent law-abiding citizens from getting guns, because the criminals are still going to have guns. And they possibly have military grade guns as far as we know. So to take guns away from law-abiding citizens is kind of the problem here, because if you do gun reform, those criminals are still going to get their guns. They do not care about laws. The only ones you're hurting here is the law-abiding citizens. That's it.
This isn't necessarily, something they've already enacted or, drafted up or trying to get through Congress or anything like that, but it's confirmed that he is playing with the idea of banning guns for the trans community.
He wants to take trans people's gun rights on the basis that trans people are likely to commit violent acts with said guns. That trans people are unstable. Trans people are not to be trusted. I mean, really, if you look at the data, the percentage of violent crime committed by transgender individuals is not explicitly quantified in the available data. However, research indicates that transgender people are 4 times more likely than cisgender individuals to experience violent victimization. Additionally, a significant number of homicides of transgender individuals are linked to gun violence, with 70% of these homicides involving firearms. This suggests that while exact percentage of violent crime committed by transgender individuals is not known, their victimization rates and the role of firearms in homicides highlighted the heightened risk of violence faced by transgender people. The statistics also show that trans people involved in mass shootings is less than 1%. Based on the statistics, I'm going to say trans people are not more likely to commit violent acts, but be victims of violent acts.
Now, on the surface, you may say, well, that's probably a good idea because, the mental health situation in that community is severe.
I mean, you could go down that avenue of putting forth wrong information and accepting wrong information as fact. But if you even did a slightest bit of research into the matter, you would find, again, that trans people do not commit the majority of violent acts out there. They are a very small portion of the community, and even smaller portion of actual trans people. Most of us are law-abiding citizens who don't really commit any acts of violence or crime in any such form. Most of us are just trying to live our lives like everybody else. Not to mention the fact that a trans person going through gender-affirming care is genuinely more happy and more stable than they ever have been in their life. Just saying.
Now, I want you to take a step back and think about what he's proposing here.
Yes, he's proposing to take constitutional rights away from American citizens, and in most cases, law-abiding American citizens without the right to due process, without the right to go before a judge, and just take them. A blatant act against the Constitution, a violation of our Constitution.
Remember what happened in his first term when veterans with PTSD were actually being targeted for their gun rights, and President Trump actually rolled that back?
Remember in his first term when he ran on supporting trans people and protecting trans people and all of that? Do you remember? How about I refresh your memory?
Very few complaints the way it is. People go, they use the bathroom that they feel is appropriate.
So if Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses?
That is correct.
A radical Islamic terrorist targeted the nightclub, not only because he wanted to kill Americans, but in order to execute gay and lesbian citizens because of their sexual orientation. It's a strike at the heart and soul of who we are as a nation.
But I digress.
Keeping in mind that veterans, statistically, it's very close, but they, I think, have a little bit higher rate of taking their own lives compared to the trans community.
Yes, trans people and military veterans do have comparable rates of suicide. But there's something to be said in that trans people who most likely have not seen war or anything such have a comparable suicide rate to those who have been in war. That really says something if you really think about it. At which point you have to then take a look as to why trans people have comparable suicide rates to those who have been in war.
But both these communities are very, very high when it comes to taking their own lives and the rate of that. And so the idea of us taking gun rights away from veterans who served our country and then come back and have, anxiety or depression or any number of things, right? PTSD, which is a very serious thing. But the idea of taking their gun rights just solely based on that is ridiculous.
Yeah, especially when they have not been proven to be a danger to themselves or others, and they are law-abiding citizens. You shouldn't take a law-abiding citizen's gun rights for any reason, least of all without due process.
And unfounded. And so President Trump rolled that back. Why would we apply the same blanket ban to this other community?
The reason you blanket it onto this other community is because, hey, it worked for that community until I rolled it back. So how about this? I apply it to this community that I have demonized and made monsters and made people hate to the point that violence has increased amongst them, and I take their gun rights, effectively making them more vulnerable for whatever I plan on doing next.
Now, we're going to dive into that subject a little bit deeper into this video. But if we compare apples to apples there, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like, banning white guys from owning guns because they might be the, majority of people that pull off these, mass tragic type of events. Even though they're super rare statistically, that would kind of be the same thing.
Statistically speaking, 53% of all mass shootings in the U.S. are done by white Americans. 51% of these being white males. So by that logic and by that standard, shouldn't we be trying to go after their gun rights? Because, statistically speaking, they commit 51% of mass shootings in this country. Well, he's going after trans people who make up less than 1% of all mass shootings, and saying that they should lose their gun rights. So by that standard, shouldn't he be going after white males and they should lose their gun rights as well? I mean, just saying.
Stop right there. What were you going to do? Just watch the video and leave? Without even leaving a trace of your existence? Don't you know that liking, sharing, and subscribing is a great way to show the creator that you enjoyed their content? Plus, you won't miss out on future uploads from this creator? What's wrong with you? Have you no decency?